Queens, New York, summer of 2019. The streets were hot, restless, and alive with the quiet hum of a city that never sleeps. But in the shadows of Jamaica Avenue, a different rhythm pulsed, one of loyalty, pride, and power. The Wood City Gang, known around the blocks as YTB, Yellow Tape Boys, ruled their corner of Queens with swagger and silence. Their leader, Christopher S.A. Acevedo, wasn't just another street soldier. He was a name that carried weight. A man who built his reputation through respect and fear, not hashtags and talk. That's why when one of his top men, Lil Dre, got his gold YTB chain snatched during a late-night recording session, it wasn't just a robbery. It was an insult. The chain wasn't ordinary jewelry. It was a badge, a symbol of everything Wood City stood for. And when their rival crew, Snow Gang, posted a video the next morning on Instagram, laughing, flashing the chain and tagging Wood City's members, the insult went public. In the underworld, respect is currency. And online humiliation, that's bankruptcy. "Yo, S.A.," Dre said, pacing the studio floor. "They think we soft, bro. They really think they can clown us?" Acevedo leaned back, expression calm but his jaw tight. He didn't speak for a long time, just stared at the glowing phone screen, watching the rival gang member pose with the stolen chain. Gold letters spelling YTB catching the light. "You know what that means, right?" Acevedo finally said. Dre nodded. "We get it back?" Acevedo's tone turned cold. "We take everything back." Word spread fast through the block. By evening, Wood City soldiers were already scouting, tracing locations, watching social feeds, tracking cars. The Snow Gang boys had no idea how close they were being watched. For days, Acevedo stayed quiet, waiting, planning, listening. He wasn't impulsive. Revenge to him was business. "You do it fast, you get sloppy," he told his crew. "You do it smart, they remember forever." On August 26, 2019, the plan moved. A Snow Gang affiliate named David Hutchinson was spotted leaving a studio in Springfield Gardens, his gray Honda rolling toward 140th Avenue. Acevedo's car followed, tinted, silent, 2 men inside. Inside that car, the air was thick. Acevedo's gun lay across his lap. His driver said nothing. When Hutchinson's car slowed near a corner bodega, Acevedo nodded once. "Right here." The first shot cracked the silence, then another, a dozen in total. Windows shattered, tires screeched, people screamed. When it was over, Hutchinson slumped over his steering wheel, blood pooling beneath him. Acevedo didn't look back. He simply said, "Chain or not, they know now." In Queens, news traveled fast, faster than truth, faster than justice. By midnight, the streets were buzzing. Wood City got its revenge. But what no one knew then, not the cops, not the witnesses, was that this single act of retaliation would unravel a criminal empire and expose the violent code that ruled New York's underground. The morning after the shooting, Queens woke up to blood and confusion. Police tape fluttered in the breeze outside the Springfield Boulevard bodega, and the hum of reporters mixed with the whisper of street gossip. A man was dead in his car. David Hutchinson, 26 years old, known on the streets as D. Hutch. Detectives moved in quick. NYPD crime scene unit marked bullet holes across the gray Honda, bagged casings, and recorded every shattered piece of glass. To the public, it looked like another gang hit, a tragic but familiar story. But to those who knew the streets, it wasn't random. "This ain't over no drug turf," one officer muttered. "This one's personal." Across Jamaica, phones buzzed non-stop. Videos circulated, shaky clips of flashing lights, crime scene tape, and, inevitably, speculation. People online started connecting dots. The stolen chain, the Instagram post, the threat replies. Within hours, hashtags like Dash Wood City and Dash Snow Gang began trending across New York's underground accounts. It wasn't just a shooting anymore. It was a message. At the 103rd Precinct, Detective Luis Morales stared at the evidence board. The case had the fingerprints of a retaliation hit, but getting proof was another story. Nobody talked when it came to Wood City. "We need a witness," Morales said. His partner, Detective Keisha Daniels, laughed bitterly. Ain't nobody from Jamaica Avenue gonna talk about Wood City. You know that. She was right. Acevedo's reputation kept lips sealed tighter than any lock. People feared him not because of what he'd done, but what he could do next. Meanwhile, Christopher S.A. Acevedo sat in the back booth of a Queens diner, quiet, eyes on the street. He wasn't hiding. He didn't need to. The murder had restored his gang's respect, and for a while that was enough. To him, it wasn't murder, it was justice. But in Brooklyn, a small FBI violent crimes task force had already taken notice. Hutchinson's killing wasn't an isolated case. It fit a pattern: high-profile street figure, public retaliation, silence afterward, and all of it led back to Wood City. Special Agent Renee Carter studied the file spread across her desk. Acevedo's name appeared again and again, linked to identity theft rings, bank fraud, even narcotics. The man wasn't just a gang leader, he was a businessman in crime. "He's too careful," Carter said to her team. "But this killing, that's a crack. If we push, we'll find the rest." A week later, NYPD detectives interviewed a bodega employee, an older man who'd seen the shooting from inside. He was trembling. "I saw the car," he whispered. "Black Infinity, tinted. They waited for him." "Did you see the shooter?" A pause. "I saw his eyes." When Morales showed him a lineup photo that included Acevedo, the man froze. He didn't point. He just looked away. "Sorry, officer, I can't help." Fear. It was thicker than blood in these streets. But even fear couldn't stop the evidence trail. Ballistics matched the shells from the scene to a weapon recovered 2 months later in a Bronx traffic stop, a .40 caliber Glock linked to another Wood City member. The net was tightening, and Acevedo didn't even know it. As night fell over Queens again, the same streets that had cheered for him now whispered his name in fear. For the first time in years, Christopher Acevedo had a shadow behind him, and it wore a badge. Fall of 2019. The heat of summer had cooled, but the tension in Queens hadn't. The streets of South Jamaica buzzed with whispers. The cops were watching, the feds were listening, and Wood City wasn't as untouchable as before. Inside a small warehouse on Guy R. Brewer Boulevard, Christopher S.A. Acevedo held a quiet meeting with his lieutenants. Phones off, windows shut. Only low voices and smoke in the air. "We got rats," Acevedo said, voice low but sharp. "Police moving too fast. Somebody's talking." No one looked him in the eye. The men around him, Dre, Rico, and Tone, had known Acevedo since high school. They'd built Wood City together from street corners to a full-blown operation. Identity theft, credit card fraud, drug sales, and gun running. But now all of it was under heat. Rico finally spoke. "S.A., they ain't got nothing. Ain't nobody saw you that night." Acevedo smirked. "You sure about that? Cops don't need eyes when they got phones. One post, one message, and that's all it takes." And he was right. Across the river, inside a glass-walled office at the Brooklyn Federal Building, Special Agent Renee Carter and Detective Luis Morales went over a digital map glowing with red dots. Each one a Wood City affiliate. Social media wasn't just a bragging tool anymore. It was evidence. Instagram videos, Snap stories, even geo-tagged photos. All breadcrumbs. One post caught Carter's eye, a blurred image from a Wood City block party taken days after the shooting. In the background, a man wearing a gold chain that looked a lot like the stolen YTB piece. Carter leaned forward. "Freeze that." Morales zoomed in. "That's Dre, the guy who got his chain stolen." Carter smiled slightly. "So how's he got it back now?" It wasn't proof of murder, but it was a start. Revenge followed by celebration. Back in Queens, Acevedo's paranoia deepened. He started running tests, calling members in for trust checks, making them repeat their alibis. The wrong tone, the wrong detail, could mean a beating. Or worse. One of the younger members, Trey, made a mistake. He'd bragged online about the payback on 140th. Acevedo found out. The next night, Trey's phone was smashed, and he was told to disappear. Permanently. Fear turned inward. The gang that once moved like family was now crawling with suspicion. In late November, The FBI secured a wiretap. They targeted one of Acevedo's close associates, Rico, the money man. Rico had priors, kids, and too much to lose. On one recorded call, Rico slipped, "Man, S.A. wild for that shooting. It ain't even about money no more, it's ego." That line was gold, enough to tie Acevedo to motive and intent. Carter smiled when the transcript came through. Got him. December 10th, 2019, 4:15 a.m. A cold wind swept across Queens as unmarked vans rolled quietly through South Jamaica. The neighborhood still slept, unaware that one of the biggest federal gang raids in years was about to explode. Inside one van, Special Agent Renee Carter checked her earpiece. "All teams in position," a voice crackled. Carter nodded. "We move on my count. Acevedo's at his mother's house. Let's end this." For months, they had built their case. Wiretaps, financial records, informants, social media trails, all pointing to one man. The Wood City empire was about to crumble. Across town, Christopher S.A. Acevedo woke up restless. He hadn't slept well in weeks. The paranoia was constant, the feeling of eyes watching him, phones recording, cars following. He poured himself a drink, staring out the window at the quiet street below. Then came the first sound, the crash of a door being kicked in. "FBI, don't move!" Shouts echoed down the block. Acevedo grabbed his pistol and bolted for the back door, adrenaline taking over. Outside, floodlights cut through the darkness as agents swarmed his property. "Hands up! Hands!" Acevedo fired twice into the air and ran through the alley. The chase was on. Back inside the house, agents swept the rooms. Stacks of cash, fake IDs, laptops, phones, even burner SIM cards. Every piece of his empire laid bare. Carter stormed in, scanning the chaos. "Where's our guy?" "Fled east through the alley," shouted another agent. "He's on foot." Carter cursed under her breath. "He won't make it far." Meanwhile, Acevedo sprinted through backyards, hopping fences, his breath visible in the cold air. His mind raced, not just about getting away, but about revenge. He knew who had tipped the feds off. Rico, the same man who handled his money, the same voice he'd heard on the wiretap leaks. Acevedo's paranoia had been right. Someone had talked. He slipped into a parked car, hotwired it, and drove straight toward Rico's apartment in Rosedale, still clutching his gun. An hour later, as dawn crept over the skyline, the city buzzed with the news. Mass FBI raid in Queens, dozens arrested in gang takedown. But one name was missing from the headlines: Christopher Acevedo. He was on the run. Carter stood outside the raid site, watching the scene unfold. Perp walks, media flashes, chaos. "We got the crew," said one officer. "Not the boss," Carter replied. "Until he's in cuffs, this isn't over." At 8:47 a.m., Acevedo reached Rico's building. He moved fast, up the stairs, down the hall, gun raised. The door burst open. Rico froze. "S.A. man, please. You talked," Acevedo growled. "After everything I gave you." "It wasn't me, bro. They had my kids," Rico pleaded. But mercy wasn't in Acevedo's vocabulary anymore. 2 shots echoed through the hall, then silence. By the time police arrived, Acevedo was gone again, vanished into the urban maze of Queens. But his world was closing in fast. The streets that once bowed to his power now whispered his downfall. His lieutenants were gone, his money seized, and every camera in the city was looking for him. On every news broadcast, his face appeared: Christopher S.A. Acevedo, wanted for murder, racketeering, and gang conspiracy. And yet, somewhere in the chaos, Acevedo still felt in control. Because to him, this wasn't the end. It was payback for betrayal. Winter 2020. New York was frozen under gray skies and police sirens. For 3 weeks, Christopher S.A. Acevedo was a ghost. No phones, no addresses, no social media. Every bridge, bus terminal, and train station was being watched. But Acevedo had built his life on control. He knew where the city's blind spots were: old warehouses in Brooklyn's Red Hook, friends of friends who owed him silence, and small-time hustlers who still feared the Wood City name. He hid in one of those warehouses, its windows boarded and its walls echoing with the drip of leaking pipes. At night, he'd sit by a space heater, drinking cheap whiskey, his mind circling the same thought. Someone always pays. The feds might have taken his empire, but they hadn't taken his anger. In Manhattan, Special Agent Rene Carter sat in a strategy meeting with Detective Luis Morales. The walls were covered in maps, red lines tracing Acevedo's past movements, blue pins marking old contacts. Carter sighed. He's not gone. He's watching us. Morales nodded. He's too proud to run forever. Guys like him come back to the scene, always. Carter leaned back, eyes narrowing. Then we set the stage for his return. They leaked news through underground channels, a whisper that one of Acevedo's safe houses had been raided and that Dre, his most trusted enforcer, had cut a deal for immunity. It wasn't true, but it didn't need to be. They were baiting the king. In his hideout, Acevedo heard the rumor within a day. Dre? He muttered, shaking his head. Nah, Dre wouldn't flip. But doubt crept in. He remembered how Dre had looked the night of the shooting, the nervous glances, the quiet hesitations. If it was true, Acevedo had one more score to settle before they caught him. He found a burner phone, called a contact. Tell me where Dre's staying, he said. Tonight. By midnight, Times Square was buzzing. Lights, tourists, chaos. But a few blocks away near 10th Avenue, an old apartment building stood quiet. Inside, Dre was pacing, uneasy. He'd heard the same rumors too, about Acevedo hunting him. Then came the knock, 3 slow, deliberate taps. Dre froze. He peeked through the peephole, saw nothing. Silence. When he turned back, the door splintered open. Acevedo stepped inside, gun drawn, eyes cold. Essay, listen. You talked. I didn't, bro, I swear. The two men faced each other, years of loyalty, fear, and street code collapsing in one moment. I built Wood City, Acevedo said, and you let it burn. The gunshot echoed through the hall. Within minutes, 911 calls flooded in. By the time NYPD units arrived, Acevedo was gone again, blending into the pulse of Manhattan like smoke. But this time, there were cameras, witnesses, and license plates. The city had eyes everywhere. Carter got the call at 2:14 a.m. Another homicide. Victim's name, Andre Jackson. Doctor. She exhaled slowly. He's tying up loose ends. We're close. At sunrise, the manhunt tightened. FBI agents raided the Brooklyn warehouse and found Acevedo's jacket, blood on the sleeve, and a printed headline on the table. Wood City leader faces life for revenge murder. Scrawled underneath in marker were 3 words, not done yet. The city braced for one last act, one more night of blood and reckoning. Because Christopher Acevedo wasn't planning to surrender, he was planning to finish it. February 2021, Lower Manhattan. The streets were slick with rain, neon lights shimmering off puddles. The city seemed restless, waiting. Christopher S. A. Acevedo sat in the driver's seat of a stolen black SUV, parked near the Brooklyn Bridge. His hands gripped the steering wheel tight. On the passenger seat, a gun, a photo of his brother Miguel, and a folded newspaper with the headline, Final Suspect in Wood City Murders Still at Large. He whispered under his breath, You took my brother, my streets, my name. Now I'll take yours. He wasn't running anymore. He was hunting one last time. Across the bridge, FBI Special Agent Rene Carter stood on a rooftop with binoculars, watching the traffic below. Beside her, Detective Luis Morales checked his radio. Unit 4, confirm visual. We believe Acevedo's moving southbound, Carter said. The voice crackled back. Confirmed, he's alone. Morales sighed. You think he'll surrender? Carter shook her head. Men like Acevedo don't surrender. They burn. Acevedo's destination was clear, Pier 17, where an old warehouse once served as Wood City's first headquarters, the place where it all started. He stepped out of the SUV, rain soaking his jacket, and entered the dark structure. Inside were echoes, old graffiti, bullet holes, ghosts of loyalty long gone. He loaded his gun and placed Miguel's photo on a crate. For you, hermano, he said softly. Then footsteps echoed behind him. Christopher Acevedo, a voice called. It's over. Carter stepped into the dim light, her weapon drawn, FBI vest glistening with rain. Morales followed, flanking her left. Acevedo smirked. You finally found me. We've been watching since Times Square, Carter replied. End this now. He laughed, bitter and tired. You don't end this. Wood City never dies. Wood City's gone, Morales said. You buried it yourself. Acevedo raised his weapon. Slow. Deliberate. Carter didn't blink. Don't make me do it, Chris. A tense silence. Rain hammered the roof like drums. Then, movement. A flash of metal. A single shot cracked through the air. When the echoes faded, Acevedo was on the ground, a wound in his shoulder, still alive but bleeding fast. Carter moved in, cuffing him while he whispered, You don't understand. Miguel didn't die in a gang hit. Someone made it happen. She paused. Who? His voice was weak, fading. Someone bigger than me. Bigger than Wood City. Then his eyes closed. 6 months later, Acevedo sat in Rikers Island, awaiting trial. The city had moved on, headlines fading, new crimes replacing old ones. But Carter hadn't forgotten his last words. One night, she opened an unmarked envelope left on her desk. Inside was a single photo, Miguel Acevedo shaking hands with a known NYPD officer from years ago. Her eyes narrowed. The case wasn't over.